What is going on? A little Jets talk on a Sunday. How about it? I don't need the paper towels in the shot. Get it together, Matt. What's going on? Hey, guys, I am Matt O'Leary, going to be hanging out with you, talking some quarterback talk and some New York Jets conversation. Excited to get into it, hang out with you guys on this lovely Sunday. No football this week. Well, unless you consider the Pro Bowl football. That's not really football, right? Did anyone over the age of 10 watch today? Hand up. I watched 0 minutes of the Pro Bowl of any of the festivities. Maybe I'm just old and washed and just don't like to have any fun. But you let me know if you feel otherwise. Or as a reminder, here we go. You can become a member and support the channel. Follow Matt O'Leary NY on social media. Send in super chats if you want your questions to jump the line. And last but not least, sign or subscribe to the Matt O'Leary NY Extra channel for bonus content over there. I wanted to talk about the quarterback search today, just because there's been like conflicting reports. And by conflicting reports, I mean people making up that they have sources. Let me share my screen. Do a little screen share for you on what's going on over on the old Twitterverse. Pull that up. Here we go. Friend of the show, NYJ Matt, says, "Hey, JPA is the account he's tweeting at. Why did you delete your tweet from the credible sources of Bad Boy of Scoops? Please explain." So this is the tweet in question. I'll pull it up. I'm sure you guys saw it on Twitter. I had a few people send it to me on IG as well. Report: Aaron Rodgers has told his agent that he would rather play for the Raiders than the Jets. If this isn't the dead giveaway, per at Bad Boy of Scoops. We had people freaking out that at Bad Boy of Scoops was saying that Aaron Rodgers would go to Vegas. He wasn't going to the Jets. There's no income tax in Las Vegas, and Rodgers could reunite with his old friend Devontae Adams. There we go. And then there was also one earlier. I'll find that for you guys as well. There was one earlier from, I believe it was from ESPN, Boy Green on Twitter. If you don't follow Boy Green, you should. Had the tweet. He's always good at like aggregating all these things. Here we go. ESPN Greeny on Get Up. ESPN says multiple people have told me that one should watch very carefully how aggressively the Jets go after Derek Carr. If they don't, that would be a significant indication that they believe they have a really good chance at Aaron Rodgers. That kind of makes sense, right? Like just from a logic perspective here, if you don't go heavy after Derek Carr, I would imagine, that you're all in on Rodgers. The only like legitimate fear that I have, and I want to hear what you guys think about this as well. The legitimate fear that I have is if you go all in for Rodgers, right? You miss out on Carr, and then Rodgers does end up in Vegas or Tennessee or anywhere else. Then what the hell do you do? Then what? You bank it on injured Jimmy G. You're bringing in Ryan Tannehill. Are we crying? Do we just drink bleach and cry at that point? What do you do? So to me, my personal take is that it's got to be one of Carr or Rodgers. If not, I am very, very concerned for the New York Jets going into 2023. But it's your guys' show as well, so I want to get into the comment section. Jack Talks Jets is up in hanging out with us. Sup, Matt? He says, "What's going on, man?" JETS says hello. NY Jets fan 4 is hanging. Daniel Murphy, not related to the former Met. Daniel Murphy says, "What's up, Matt? Fellas, how's it going?" Yeah, NY Jets fan 4, we're getting close. He says, "Can't wait till after the Super Bowl so shit gets crazy." That's when the dominoes are going to start to fall because, as you know, the Raiders have to make their decision on Derek Carr by the 15th. So 10 days from now, you'll have your answer with Derek Carr. If he's traded, if not, he'll be released by next Wednesday. So more than likely, you're going to start to see, I would think he's the first domino to fall. And also, it feels like, again, this is not source, but this is just like based on any sort of indication. It feels like Rodgers is taking his time. We might know more after the Super Bowl at that point. That's my feeling on it anyway. Finger Lakes Jet fan is here. Let's get Carr or Rodgers. Jets versus Raiders. Yeah, it feels that way. I'm good with either of those options. As I said, the Rodgers one feels that's the one that's really picking up steam right now. You guys, if you've followed along or listened to me for a while, you should know my stance by now. I'm not anti Derek Carr. I think both of those guys would be significant improvements. Um, I like Carr. I think he got way too much blame with the Raiders. And as it goes with Aaron Rodgers, the fact that he's only going to be $15 million against the cap next year, and I believe it's 32.5 in 2024. I think that is intriguing enough to me where I'd want to take that swing. And I don't think it's going to cost a first round pick this year to get that done. Rodgers has the higher ceiling than Carr. Carr is probably the, I'll say, quote, or safer option just because I think, he's going to be, as I've said on this show many times, he's going to be the 12th to 14th best quarterback in the league, somewhere in there. Where with Rodgers, there could be some variance. He could be a top 5 quarterback next year, or the wheels can completely fall off and he's a bottom 5. Explosive diarrhea. Oh God. I'm warming up to Jimmy G. Really? I think the more time that passes, the more that I'm souring on Jimmy G. Because we saw what Brock Purdy was able to do in that offense. And I wonder how much uh, of Jimmy G's success is because of the offense that they ran out there in San Francisco. I think he's fine. Let's pull up his numbers in starts this year. He obviously played pretty well when healthy, but as we know with Jimmy, I'm just going to minimize your comments so we can pull up the whole Pro Football Reference. In 11 games, 10 starts, he was 7-3, 67.2 completion percentage, 7.9 yards per attempt, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. How many yards per game? 221 and a half, 103 rating. He's solid, but again, just misses a ton of time. He played 15 games last year, 6 in 2020, 16 in 2019, 3 in 2018, 5 in 2017. When he's on the field, he's good. He's solid. When he's on the field, he's solid. But he misses a ton of time. There is no denying that he just misses absolutely a ton of time. Lucas K18 says, if we're not 100% on AR, we need to be aggressive for Carr. Can't miss on both. That's the biggest fear that I have right now for the New York Jets is what the hell do you do? What do you do if you swing and miss on both? I guess Jimmy is probably my number 3 option after that, but it gets ugly and ugly pretty quick after that. Then you're looking at Ryan Tannehill, Jacoby Brissett, Mike White, guys like that. It's oof. Jack Talks Jets says, the thing about Rodgers is I want him, but in 1 or 2 years, you're going to be looking for a new quarterback already. I'd still love A-Rod, though. That is true. The thing that I think the Jets would try to spin, and I'm not necessarily saying that this is definitely going to work, but the thing that they would spin is that you still have Zach Wilson under contract. He could sit for a year or 2 and maybe develop behind Rodgers. I don't know how likely that is, again, but that's how the Jets would spin it. And then who knows? Maybe there's another veteran or you're drafting a quarterback at that point. Finger Lake says it's good to see the trolls out from under the bridges. Yep, I'm not going to even put that up. Aaron Rodgers stated he wants to win a Super Bowl. Logic dictates he takes the path of least resistance. The Jets are that path, not the Raiders, says V-Man. A good point from V-Man. I mean, think about it. In the AFC West, you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who have been to the Super Bowl or the Super Bowl 3 times and have been in the conference championship for the last 5 seasons, right? Is it 5 or 6 seasons? Not in 2018, but in 19, 20, 21, 22. Or no, maybe it was 2018. Anyway, regardless, they've been to a million AFC conference championships in a row and been to a bunch of Super Bowls already with him. Justin Herbert is trending in the right direction. They made the playoffs this past year. They hired a new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore, who I think is significantly better than Joe Lombardi. And you also have Russell Wilson and Sean Payton teaming up, and you'd have to imagine that Sean Payton's a significant upgrade as a head coach over what Nathaniel Hackett was as a head coach for that team. Bad boy of Scoop said we were going after Dak. Yeah, I don't think that's super likely. Trade for Tyler Huntley, says Casey. Yeah, that's Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley to us. London Jets fan, what's up, dude? Thank you for tuning in from London. Let's get A-Rod. He says, Buffalo Jet fan is hanging out with us as well. What's up, Buffalo Jet? Love hanging out, talking with Buffalo. He was on the Talking Jets panel last week. It was a blast. No green bean. He was traveling down to the Senior Bowl. So it was myself, Buffalo Jet, Ryan, and Tigo were on. And it was a great conversation, the four of us. And I'm sure you already subscribed up to Buffalo Jet fan, but if you're not, make sure to do so. Scott V says, I just hope Rodgers doesn't drag this out long and screw us. Yeah, that'd be really crappy, right? You're waiting on Rodgers, and you lose out on everybody else. And then he decides, oh, I'm not going to go to the Jets. I'm going to go to wherever. Not great. Joe, I think you're in the minority on this one, but I understand. He wants Brissett at 5 to 7 million. He had 3,400 yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 picks, and a drafted quarterback. I don't know who's going to be. Are you trading up for a quarterback? Are you staying at 13 and taking I don't know if it's a guarantee that Anthony Richardson's there at 13. He could be, but I don't know. There's a chance. There's a world where he's off the board at 13. Is there somebody else that you have in mind? If Rodgers is interested, this is Red John, by the way. If Rodgers is interested in coming to the Jets, he'll let us know ASAP. He knows we can't wait around. Yeah, I think, I said this earlier. It feels like the week after the Super Bowl is when we're going to start to see some dominoes fall. And I think we'll have a little bit more info at that point for what's happening with these guys, where they're going to go, different stuff like that. Daniel Murphy says, I don't believe the narrative that Derek Carr is unable to win a Super Bowl with a good roster. He's got the clutch gene, so why not? Yeah, I don't get that one either. A comparison now, I don't think Carr is the same caliber of quarterback as Stafford, but the same things that were said about Stafford are being said about Derek Carr now. When the situation that both those guys were in, the storylines by now, or you should, that Derek Carr's had the worst defense in the league since coming into the NFL in 2014. He's had a bunch of turnover at the head coaching position, a ton of different offensive coordinators. And does he not get credit for last year in 2021 with a brutal circumstance with John Gruden, right? All that drama. Then the Henry Ruggs drama still gets that team to the playoffs. They get bounced by Cincinnati, but still got them to the playoffs that year, threw for 4,800 yards. Is he an elite quarterback? No, I don't think anyone will say that he is, but I think you could win a Super Bowl with a guy who's the 10th to 15th best quarterback. Jimmy G took the Niners to a Super Bowl and basically had the thing won in 2019. Couldn't get off the field defensively. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl as a backup in 2017 with a great roster. Flacco won a Super Bowl in 2012. He got hot at the right time. Eli is another one. His, numbers in the regular season are normally pretty pedestrian. And then, they were a wild card team. Well, they were technically they were the division winner. They were like a 9-win team both times that they won the Super Bowl. It's about getting hot at the right time and having a good team, and having an elite quarterback helps. Believe me, I think having an elite quarterback makes your life so much easier in getting there. But is there a world where if the Jets have a top 5 offense, top 5 rushing game, and Derek Carr throwing for 4,200 yards and 25 touchdowns, that they can't be competitive enough to go on a run in the playoffs? I don't know if I buy that personally. T. Rivera says, Matt, this sounds like a smokescreen by AR PR team to ramp up the price for his services, but until and only after the SP, we'll know where we stand with AR. Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat. It's going to be a little bit, I think. I don't personally, I don't think it's his PR. He's his own PR team in a sense when he goes on the Pat McAfee show. He's talked highly about the Jets on there. I don't think, like, why did they care about ramping up the draft compensation going back to Green Bay? That doesn't really, that, why do they care about that? They want to go to the best spot possible. They don't really care about, the price that's going the other way. Lucas K18 says Carr is just as good as Stafford was when he was a Lion. Then he got put on a good roster and improved and won. And Carr can definitely bring us a ring. I think it's close. I would be splitting hairs with you if I disagreed. Red John says not sure Carr is better than Tannehill. Who said that? Are you saying that? Or did someone in the chat say that? That's silly. He's definitely better than Tannehill. Casey says still think Lamar is an option. I think if he does get traded, you're probably more likely to see him go to an NFC team. It would be surprising to me if they flipped him in conference. Atlanta or Carolina seem like two teams who I think would be in the mix for a guy like Lamar. But if I had to bet, I'm going to say Lamar stays in Jacksonville. Jacksonville, Jesus. Brain's not working today. Bet he stays in Baltimore. Scott V says, I wouldn't hate drafting a Hendon Hooker, Max Duggan in the third as a developmental guy. Both are great passers. Duggan or Clayton Tune, I like. My issue with Hendon Hooker is his age and the number of injuries that he's had already. I'm not opposed to the, like Duggan or Tune or even was it Jake Hayner, right? Is another one. I just for me, Hendon Hooker's with coming off the ACL is a little nerve wracking to me. I would say pass. NY Jet Superfan says, I love the Jets, but our roster is not that close to winning a Super Bowl. We have too many shit contracts on the books. We need help at DT, linebacker, safety, O-line, and wide receiver. See, I don't necessarily I don't agree with this. If they had average quarterback play, to me, there's no way this team doesn't win 11 games this year. This past year. And that's not without another, draft class, another set of free agency. I think they could add some talent there. Like, they don't need a ton at wide receiver. They need depth. They need a tackle, which is something that you can get with pick 13. Defensive tackle depth, linebacker depth, and safety depth isn't really like that's should be middle tier free agency and middle of the draft that you can find those things. The SSPN reports are funny. They have 70 followers. SSPN, is that the one that I just flashed up there before? Oh, yeah, Scott. I don't agree with this one, Joe. It was responding to Scott. Hendon Hooker is the best quarterback in this draft, especially with the second round or later salary. No, I think to me, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are the clear 1 and 2. Will Levis might end up going as the second quarterback, but I think that would be a mistake. I think CJ Stroud is better. Arizona Jet says, why am I seeing Ryan Tannehill talk? Does that mean we miss on Rodgers and Carr? I think it's just if you miss on both, which is not good, that might be where you have to pivot to, unless you're bringing in Jimmy G. V-Man says, would you believe Raiders fans tried to argue that Rodgers will go to Vegas because of golf? Oof. There's some nice golf courses in the area. In New York and New Jersey, he could play golf out there too. I will. Scott V says people hate on Hendon's age, but he's got a lot of experience. I won't be surprised if this dude is throwing 30 plus touchdowns season soon. I would. Count me as surprised if that happens. Arizona Jet says the Raiders organization was toxic. How does he get the raw end of the deal for that? Fans hate Josh McDaniels. He did the same thing in Denver and shipped Jay Cutler out. Yeah, he wants his own guy. He wants his own guy. It's hard for me to think that Derek Carr just forgot how to play football in his age 31 season as a 30-year-old, which I mean, quarterbacks are playing into their mid to late 30s now. I mean, obviously Tom Brady's an alien. You can't, and Aaron Rodgers is a different breed, but quarterback at 31, I don't think Carr's just falling off a cliff and forgetting how to play the sport. He's a year removed from a 68.4 completion percentage, 4,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, and a 94 rating, 52.4 QBR. I think he's, again, I think he's solid. Jimmy G has no win in him. Carr has even less. Jimmy G, while I'm not Jimmy G's biggest fan, his career record says otherwise. He, as a starter, he is 40-17. So he's won 40 of 57 starts, which is a 702 win percentage. Guy wins a ton. He's not healthy a ton. He wins a lot. Would you be willing to throw a boatload of money at Daniel Jones if we don't get Aaron Rodgers and he shakes free from the Giants? Like him, but don't know if he's worth a massive contract. I am afraid what he would look like away from Brian Daboll. Daboll got him going the best. He's looked the best with Daboll. I think it's best for both sides to stay where they are. I don't think the Giants should pursue a new quarterback, and I don't think Daniel Jones should pursue a new opportunity because of what he was able to do with Daboll. I think that's a good spot for him. I think he goes back there. I'd be nervous to pay him $40 million a year, personally. I just don't think AR cares about winning. How come? I'm curious. How come? Fingerlink says Domsey talks about how Hooker comes from such a bad system that doesn't translate to the NFL. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I will say Dom C knows his stuff, and he sent me a lot of great clips from the Senior Bowl. I'm gonna get those ready and put some of those out. But I appreciate Dom C's insight on these prospects. I think he does a good job with it. I'm not the biggest Hooker fan, to be honest with you. Dan asks ideal 2023 draft. Offensive tackle in the first. Are we assuming that you have all the picks? Because if you have all the picks, then I would go something like offensive tackle, Paris Johnson in the first round, center John Michael Schmitz in the second round. I would go a linebacker like DeMarvion Overshone in the third round. I'd look for a safety after that. And then you fill out, depth defensive tackle and, some other spots from the safety. Maybe a depth wide receiver at that point, which I think you could maybe do in free agency on the cheap or the relative cheap, I guess. I think it's important that they try to build the offensive line in the draft this year, as well as adding a linebacker and safety in the draft who can compete for starting time. Joe's very high on him. Not 900,000. I understand that he's worth $900,000 a year. He's not my preferred developmental swing. You're obviously a lot higher on him than I am. Rob says 40-year fan here. I might definitely need therapy after all of these years if we pass on Carr to try and get Rodgers, then miss on both. Then we're discussing Tannehill and Baker. Yeah. it drops off a cliff pretty quickly. If they don't get either of those two guys, I would hope that it's Jimmy G over Tannehill or Baker, but that to me, that's a pretty big drop off. I would much rather Carr or Rodgers than anyone else. Tigo, what's up, man? What's going on? I was just talking about you earlier. Buffalo Jet was in here. I was saying how we were all on Tuesday. It was fun hanging out, talking Jets ball. Make sure you're subbed up to Talking with Jets with Tigo. Some basketball talk? What do you think of Kyrie getting traded to the Mavs? I don't have a basketball team. I'm not really a basketball fan. I'm not. I think Kyrie comes off as kind of a jerk. He said he wasn't. I don't want to leave Cleveland. Forces his way out of Cleveland, and he tells the people in Boston, the season ticket holders, I'm gonna sign here. I'm gonna be here for a long time. Forces his way out there. And I grew up a Nets fan. I want to make it work here with the Nets. Forces his way out here. Yeah, I'm not Kyrie's biggest fan, but it's not like I'm a hating Knicks fan. It's just I just don't have that. I don't have a team. I'm not really a big NBA guy. Bob, what questions do you have? We have 200 people in here saying comments. I guess I'm scrolling up now looking for your question. What did you ask? If Bryce Young is around the Jets pick, do the Jets take Bryce? That your question is if Bryce Young's going to be there at 13, Bob? Maybe that's why I didn't answer your question, because your question was about if Bryce Young was there at 13. Let's use our brains a little bit, Bob. I saw this. Explosive Diarrhea says Steve Cohen bought a $7 million ad for the Super Bowl. Yes. Is it a $7 million one? Because I know it's going to be in New York, but is it going to be national? And I'm wondering if there's a different price point for those guys. But yeah, looking forward to see what Mets commercial pops up. The curse of the Broadway Joe guarantee is alive and well. The Jets will never win as long as Namath is alive. Well, maybe if the Jets unretire 12 and give it to Aaron Rodgers, that like reverses the curse. They need a quarterback to wear number 12 to get him over the top. Matt, something the Buffalo Jets fan said almost more often than not, an elite quarterback elevated to a different level. The skill set of the offense, everyone in our offensive side with AR gets better. That's a good point. When you look at guys like what Garrett Wilson could do with Rodgers, with the tight ends, and Elijah Moore bounce back, and Brees and all that stuff. And to Nathaniel Hackett's credit, I know some Jet fans aren't really too happy with Nate Hackett, but something that he's good at is he gets the running backs involved heavily in both the rushing and the receiving attack. You look at what they were able to do in Green Bay. It was impressive with Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, two of them. Tigo says, I'd be surprised if he ever gets a start. Tennessee scheme was so anti-NFL. Oh, this is about Hooker. And have insanely difficult transition at 26 with an ACL injury. He won't ever see the field. Okay. Is this the question? A lot of Hendon Hooker love. Bob wants to know if Hendon Hooker, instead of having Zach Wilson, should they try to trade Zach? I'm not sure what you'd be able to get for Zach Wilson at this point. I don't think he has any value. I think you're better off holding on to him and either hoping that his value goes up in the preseason when there's an injury, or if maybe he gets a shot if there's an injury, or who the hell knows. But I don't think they just move off him now. Daniel Murphy says Rodgers is uber competitive. There's no way he doesn't care about winning. I feel the same way. Rodgers to Wilson, Carr to Wilson, 1,400 yards, 8 touchdowns. Sign me the hell up for that. If he was able to put up 1,100 yards with the rotating cast of characters throwing him the football, and Joe Flacco, Mike White, and Zach Wilson, imagine what he can do with a steady quarterback like Carr, or a potential elite one like Rodgers. Where do you get your buffalo wings from? Sometimes I'll go like Wingstop, which I know is kind of like trashy, but I'll do it anyway. There's a few places on Long Island that I like for wings. The Local in Babylon has really good wings. In Nassau County, so closer to me, a Croxley's or Dark Horse. Those are usually my spots. If I'm feeling like just a little quick, something quick, I'll DoorDash, Wingstop. But if I'm looking for something a little bit nicer, it's closer by me, Dark Horse or Croxley's. But I do love me some local in Babylon. That's my spot. Dan NY says, seeing a lot of mock drafts with the Jets taking wide receiver at 13. Not a fan. What do you think? That would be a massive mistake to me. I don't see how you could possibly do that. Look at your offensive tackle room and say, yeah, I am good banking on 40-year-old Dwayne Brown, Mekhi Becton coming off of 2 straight years with season-ending injuries, Max Mitchell, who's recovering from a blood clot. Like that's your plan at offensive tackle, or potentially waiting into the second round to do that. And sure, maybe you can land someone in the second round who can play, but I think one of Broderick Jones or or any of the Paris Johnson, Peter Skoronski, I think one of those 3 guys will be there at 13. Pick one. And people always go back, well, oh, that same people made that argument about the Bengals, and look where it's gotten them. Well, the Bengals, yes, they spent a second round pick on T. Higgins, but it's not like it's different from with the Jets because they had Tyler Boyd already on the roster, but he was taken years before that. This would be the 4th year in a row that the Jets spent a first or second round pick on the wide receiver if they were to do that at 13. It would be Denzel Mims in the second, Elijah Moore in the second, Garrett Wilson in the first, and then insert another wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba, something like that. So that's 4 years in a row of taking a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. I don't think so. That's not the direction I would go. I would look to sign a wide receiver 2 or 3 kind of guy. Like Alan Lazard, I think is a perfect fit for what the Jets need. A big body guy, red zone threat who can block and is healthier than Corey Davis. That's the direction that I would go personally. Dan says thoughts on getting Jimmy Ward. A little bit concerned with his age. I think he's okay, but he's another guy who misses a lot of time. Jimmy Ward, who's now 31 years old, I believe. He's played, let's pull up his numbers. He has played 12, 16, 14, 13, 9, 7, 11, 16, 8. So he's missed time a bunch. He's been a little bit more healthier the last couple of years, but I would hope the Jets go a different direction than Jimmy Ward. That is someone who obviously Saleh knows very well and has had success with, so I wouldn't be shocked if that's the direction that they go. But my preference, if Julian Love shakes free from the Giants, I'd rather take a swing on. If you want a veteran, I would rather take the swing on Jordan Poyer, to be honest with you. Eric says, I'm kind of worried about Rodgers' mentality if he comes to us. He's contemplating retirement and don't want money to be the main reason someone wants to play for us. I think he would still be motivated to get that second ring. That makes a big difference. And plus, he's not going to retire this year because if he did, then he would share the stage with Brady at the Hall of Fame retirement. He doesn't want that. John says, bold prediction, Jets move AVT to right tackle permanently. Yeah, I think in a perfect world, I think you draft your left tackle at 13 and then your right tackle spot is a competition between AVT and Max Mitchell next year. And I read this as Becton. I apologize, John. Hold on. Let me rephrase that. Jets move AVT to right tackle permanently. It's certainly possible. I can't read tonight, John. That's on me. My bad. They certainly could. I think he has a higher ceiling on the interior, but you can make the case that a solid right tackle is more valuable than an elite level guard. And I hear you on that. I think my preference would be to have him play guard and just stick him at guard and forget about it. But, I think you can make a strong case for that. I completely read this as Mekhi Becton. That's embarrassing. King Jamie the Mad, still not a Carr guy. Put your faith in Carr and you will see why the Raiders are tired of wasting their time. Matt, would you rather Aaron Rodgers or David Carr and DeAndre Hopkins? Derek Carr, I'm assuming. Rodgers. Because Derek Carr is going to, and Hopkins, that's going to be like, what, 50 million against the cap, roughly? Upper 40s against the cap versus 15 million against the cap. Oh, here we go. We could do some Isles talk on here. I like the extension. They're not nuts. They need a goal scorer insanely badly. I don't really care about the first round picks. They're a veteran team who can't score goals. They're 2 points out of a playoff spot. They're right in the race. The biggest reason they're not in the playoffs is because they're, I think, 3 for their last 63 on the power play, which is almost unfathomable. Bo Horvat scores a lot of goals. I think he helps. I think they make the playoffs. I like it. Alexander says, how much does Kwan sign for? I hope the Jets retain him, but I think if it came down to choosing between Kwan or Quincy Williams, I think they would choose Quincy because of the Quinnen connection. They really like Quincy. He played more snaps than Kwan this past year. I like Kwan a lot, though. I think he's probably the second best linebacker on the roster to CJ Mosley. So I would personally prefer to keep Kwan of the two, but maybe like $5 million a year, something like that. 2 years, $5 million a year. Bob, you're wrong. How's that? What do you know about the 2/12/23 thing? That's Sauce Gardner. I don't know what that means. Is that the date of the Super Bowl? I think he's in a Super Bowl ad. Yeah, that's the date of the Super Bowl. I think it has to do with his Buffalo Wild Wings commercial. Joe says, I believe Rodgers decides what he wants to do about a week after the Super Bowl, as he mentioned that on the Pat McAfee show. Hopefully, we have either Rodgers or Carr before March. Agree. Yep. It's got to be one of those two guys. And hopefully before March, because you want to know who your quarterback is when you're going into free agency and recruiting mode. Rich says Bob is Jets forever. Is this true? King Blaze says Brees the Beast, activate beast mode. Yeah, I'm excited to see Brees Hall back next year. It might take a little bit for him to start looking like Brees. Tigo, of the three tackles, which is your favorite and why? For me, it's Peter Skoronski or trade back. I like Skoronski a lot. I would say he's my number 2. The arm length is a little bit of a concern. I think that's overblown, the arm length. I would lean I think Paris Johnson's mine. I think he's like the most polished. He's played against good competition. I think he's the most potentially the most polished. He has good size. Um, Broderick Jones, I think, could still use a little bit of work with his technique. I like his size a lot, and obviously he's had success in the SEC. I'm really good with all. I'm good with all three of those guys. I think Johnson's my offensive tackle 1. Skoronski's a close 2, and then there's a little bit of a drop off to Broderick Jones, but I would still take him at 13. Like if the other 2 tackles are off the board, let's say Johnson and Skoronski go, and it's Broderick Jones at 13. You can take, a linebacker or safety there or trade back. I think I would just take Broderick Jones and move on. Where in Suffolk? Is this to the wings question? I like go out in Babylon. That's if I'm in Suffolk County, I usually go out in Babylon. Or Patchogue too, actually. Those are my 2 Suffolk County stops. Babylon, the local, the Villager, Lily's are all owned by the same people. I know one of my friends is a bartender at those spots. So those are usually my go-to. And they have very, very, very good food. Fun bar, very, very good food too as well. Uh, I'll take Hooker as a UDFA practice squad quarterback, and that's it. Don't use a pick on that bust. Wow. Coming with the fire, Tigo. You might be more anti-Hendon Hooker than I am. Brian says, I take a shot with Baker and Wilson as quarterback this year. I would pass on Baker. If you told me in 2018 that I would say at one point I'd pass on Baker, I think that'd be crazy. Of that 2018 class, Josh Allen and Lamar being the best of that bunch is surprising to me. It really is. I thought Baker and Darnold would be the best in that group, and it really hasn't been the case, unfortunately. Kev says Dwayne Brown hasn't had surgery, right? So he's more likely retiring. I don't believe he has. I think I think there's a good chance he retires, to be honest with you. I really do. Oh, it's Snoopy says, we getting the Packers left tackle, Matt. I don't want I don't want him. I don't. I know Bakhtiari is the big name, but let me pull it up for you guys. This is my concern with David Bakhtiari. 11, 1, 12. Number of games the last 3 years. Before that, solid. 16, 16, 12, 16, 14, 16, 16. But he missed 6 games this year, 16 last year, 4 in 2020. That is trending in the wrong direction. Not good. Matt says, Ginger Jets fan named Matt sounds like me, except I'm from Iowa. There we go. Shout out Iowa. Iowa Hawkeyes. I don't know much about Iowa. There's a lot of corn in Iowa. I know it's probably a bad stereotype, but that's about my extent of my knowledge of Iowa. Top 3 offensive tackles off the board by 13. I trade down a few and pick Torrance Schmitz. Okay, you can sell me on doing something like that. If all 3 of those tackles are gone, then maybe that would be. But I think one of them will be there at 13. Personally, I think one of them will be there at 13. Torrance and Schmitz, I think, are very, very good players. The only thing is they're on the interior. Do the Jets need that? Maybe not. Or if they want to play AVT on the outside, maybe they do. Why offer anything for Rodgers? If he wants to come to NYC, we'll get him for nothing. Because he's under contract. He's under. It's not like Carr, who would have to get cut. The Packers can't cut him. They'd have to trade him. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on this one, Kev. We've been too traumatized with Becton to pick Dewan. Gotta learn from the past. I'm with you. Dan says hoping for a Becton bounce back. Me too. I thought he looked great as a rookie. I really did. I thought he looked really solid and promising. And the last 2 seasons have been a wash. If he can get healthy and stay healthy, that would be huge for this team. But not only for this team, but for him. I'm rooting for the guy. He's a good kid. I have nothing against him. I'm just scared of going into next year and saying he's our left tackle. That's plan A. He is our left tackle. After he's missed the last 2 years, I don't know if you can do that. There he is. Jets forever. We need to re-sign Zach Wilson on a 20-year deal. He's the franchise. There he is. I missed you, Jets forever. Thanks for chiming in. Jerome says, do the Jets go after Tremaine Edmonds in free agency? I think that's going to be pretty costly to do something like that. He's a good player. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler. He's young. I'd be surprised if they spent that kind of money on him in free agency. I think they'll look to bring back Quincy and then maybe add a middle round guy. I don't think they're going to spend big bucks at that position personally. Explosive. I was power plays like the Mets offense. At times, yes. Oh boy. Guess his wide receiver Michael Wilson impressed in the bowl. Wouldn't mind him replacing Corey Davis. Yeah, I think Corey Davis is as good as gone, unfortunately. Well, I don't know if I should say unfortunately. That's another guy that I like Corey, but it just didn't work. Drops, injuries, penalties. It's no good. Okay, are you in George Santos's district? No, I am not. I think he's further west than I am. I think he's more like Queens, right? Let's see. They had me curious. Yeah, his Northern Boulevard, Queens. Closer, my girlfriend's from Queens. She's in Bayside. Her grandfather, I believe, yeah, he's like in by the Douglaston area, which I believe is where my girlfriend's grandfather. So my girlfriend's grandfather, Papu, he's Greek. They call him Papu. Papu's in George Santos's district. His office is like right down the block from him or something like that. It's crazy. Rogers wants warm golf weather on his days off, not cold New York. Yeah. Just like the warm weather that he's had in Green Bay over the last 20 years. Uh JFM should take a pay cut. He might be a restructure candidate. Him, Lawson, Mosley. I think all three of those guys are restructure. Maybe Barrios. I'm falling behind on these chats. Talking too much. Finger Lakes. Quan getting another prove it deal for like 3 million. One healthy season doesn't mean he's getting multi-year deals. That's fair. I don't think 1 or a 2-year deal for Quan. He's not. So you're not locking him into a 4 or 5-year deal. If you're doing a 2-year deal, most of the guarantees would probably be in that first year anyway, and then you could theoretically move on. Most of these deals can be structured where you can get out of them after 1 year. So even if it's a 2-year deal, if you moved on after one for a minimal dead cap, that's fine too. Yeah, I mean, John, I talked about this one earlier. He asked if Jackson Smith and Jigba make sense. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that's the direction that I would go, to be honest with you. It would be fun in theory, but they got to figure out offensive line somehow. Chris, says the Villager was my go-to bar when I was living in New York. There we go. I've had many a fun night at the Villager. Good times. In my younger day, we started the Villager and then go to Lily's. Lily's was more of like there's like a DJ there, different kind of vibes. But the Villager is more of a chill bar, which is more my speed now at this point. I'm 27. I'm washed. The days of, staying out super late, that's not me. That's not what I want to do. Yeah, it's going back to the 2018 draft. It's Snoopy says, "Damn, that draft was so overrated. Only Allen Lamar was any good." Yeah, I was crazy. I really thought Darnold and Baker would be really, really good. King Blaze says the difference between Rodgers and Carr on the Jets is the level of reading the defenses. This is the only reason I choose A-Rod versus Carr. But I love Carr. He's going to play with a chip on his shoulder. He will. And again, I think he's serviceable. I really do. I think too many people are down on Derek Carr. I think too many people are too harsh on him. You can't just bank on players being hurt because they were hurt in the past. Bakhtiari is a top 5 tackle. Well, I don't know. I guess, but like people don't usually tend to start getting hurt around 30 and then miraculously become injury free after that. Why does no one ever think of Andy Dalton or Matt Ryan? Because they're cheeks. They're booty cheeks. Andy Dalton, Matt Ryan looked completely washed, like completely washed in Indy. Andy Dalton is Andy Dalton's Andy Dalton. You should go somewhere where they draft a rookie. He plays the first 6 games of the year, and then they turn it over to whatever rookie they draft. Jack Talks Jets. What's your favorite college football team? Mine's Michigan. I'm not a bandwagoner. Been here since 2017. I started to like them because a person from my hometown was on Michigan. There you go. I don't really have a college football team. If I had to pick one, either University of Texas or Notre Dame. Probably University of Texas. It fits right in with me. They underachieve. They have high expectations and underachieve a lot. It fits in with my billing, but like part of me wants to move to Austin. So like just that mindset of being like they're my team from the place that I'd really probably want to be. Jimmy Jet says Broderick Jones will be there at 20 trade down. I don't know. Where do the Steelers pick? If the other two tackles are off the board and the Steelers, let's see. Let's do that. Let's pull up Tankathon. Old friend of the show, Tankathon, NFL. Yeah, at 17, I would think there's a good chance that Broderick Jones is there. In this mock, they have the Jets going Broderick Jones at 13, Paris Johnson at 12, Peter Skoronski 11. I don't think he would. If this was the case, right, and the Jets traded down, I don't think he's making it past Pittsburgh at 17. I think they would take Broderick Jones over a corner. Derek says, should the Jets sign T. Higgins? He is. Is he a free agent? Will he be a free agent? I don't think he's going anywhere. I think you'd have to trade for him now. He has one more year under contract after this in 2023. His market value is $20 million a year player. Yeah, he's under contract in 2023. In his age 24 season. Bob, don't go. Don't go. You were talking about we love you. We love you, Bob. We don't want to see it go. I'll miss you. I just want someone to defend my name as relentlessly as Jets Forever defends Zach. When that you got to be honest with yourself. There is no better guy to have in your corner than Jets Forever. He will defend you to the death, even if you don't deserve it, but he'll do it. Joe says I would take Matt Ryan as a quarterback coach. Yeah, that's a little bit different. Yeah, that's a little bit different. Ronald Perry says you couldn't pay a team to take Zach, unfortunately. I don't think you're getting anything for Zach Wilson right now. Ooh, Vinny says we should let go or trade Mosley, Lawson, and Corey. Corey more than likely is going to get let go. Lawson, I think, is a let go or restructure. But all of these guys, none of the three, actually, let me say it like this. This is a better way to say it. Mosley, Lawson, and Corey Davis are not going to be playing on their current contract for the Jets next year. Lawson will either be restructured or cut. If you cut him, you save $15 million. Mosley, they like a lot, and he's a leader on that defense. They'll probably restructure. Do you feel us as fans have killed Zach Wilson since he posed with the do you think you let the defense down question, even though in the offseason he was trying to get better with his wide receiver crew and on his dime? No, I think his play deserved criticism. For him, it's not an effort level. He's put the effort in. He has. It just hasn't clicked for whatever reason, unfortunately. I don't think we saw Nathaniel Hackett interview. Salah spoke, but I don't think Hackett has spoke yet, Brian. Dwayne, here we go. We got a super chat. Let's go to Dwayne. He says, "What wide receiver, O line, and safety can we draft with Aaron Rodgers trade?" Okay, good question. Depends on what you give up for Aaron Rodgers. It could be the two firsts. I don't think so. I think it would be a second this year and a conditional first for next year. But offensive lineman that I think you should look to draft. If you have your first round pick, tackle Roderick Jones, Peter Skoronski, Paris Johnson. Safety, a couple of safeties that I really like. In the draft anyway, JL Skinner is a safety that I really like. Jordan Battle from Alabama is a safety that I really like. Both those guys are middle round guys, third round roughly. Wide receiver. I don't know if they're going to draft a wide receiver. I would probably prefer the veteran wide receiver route to add behind Moore and Wilson, but I don't see them adding like Jackson Smith and Jigba or someone like that. I would think if they were to draft a wide receiver, it'd be someone more in the middle rounds would be my guess, or towards the later end. Just off the top of my head, someone who can go maybe like Tyler Scott. Well, he's a little bit small. A lot of these guys are on the smaller side. Tyler Scott's 5'11". Xavier Hutchinson's a bigger body receiver from Iowa State. Jonathan Mingo, 6'2", 225 from Ole Miss. Raheem Jarrett, 6 foot 190. Ronnie Bell, also 6 foot 190. I prefer to wait on wide receiver in the draft if you're looking to add someone there. Phenom asked who I think AR or Carr. I would say AR. That would be my guess right now. I'm not anti-Carr. He'd be my number 2 choice right now. I think it's going to be AR though. Watch Elimination Chamber. Is that WWE? I'm not a WWE guy. Yeah, I would. Me and Jake Eisman will be king of the sunblock there if I move there. That's funny. I did get I was in 2009. My cousin lives in San Antonio, and she got married. So I was like 14 at the time. I got really badly sunburned at a water park that weekend. That was tough. Oh, good. I'm his third favorite YouTuber. Thank God. Green Bean, what's up, man? He says, I'm in your corner the same way as Jets Forever is for Zach Buddy. Green Bean is a real one for that. Absolutely love it. Green Bean's just got back from the Senior Bowl. So we're going to talk to Green Bean this week and see what he liked at the Senior Bowl. I love it. Green Bean, I do the same for you. You know that. Tony says Daniel Jones is the best free agent with a upswing after Dable's resurrection. See, Tony, my issue or my concern with that is, will he look the same if he moves on from Dable? That I'm not so sure of. Casey says, do you think Justin Fields would have struggled here too? Hard to say. A lot of it's circumstantial. Right now, obviously, Fields looks like the better of the two guys. And he had a lot of less talent working around him. So it's, it's hard to say that he would have looked worse than what, Zach did. So maybe not. Sneakers to Boots says we need to address interior linebacker and interior defensive line. Sneakers to Boots. I agree. I think depth behind Quinnen Williams is going to be important. With Sheldon Rankins is a free agent. Nathan Shepard is a free agent. That's a sneaky need for this team. Linebacker, my guy in the draft, DeMarvion Overshown. I also like Jack Campbell a lot. Those two guys, I like them. Mr. Green Jeans, the least talked about, but biggest need is a one tech. Don't be surprised to see DT in the first 3 or 4 rounds. In the middle, yeah, I'm okay. If it's third or fourth round, I'm good with the defensive tackle there. First or second, I'd prefer to go offensive line. Okay. Many of our rookies have the sophomore jinx this upcoming season. Modine, why do you watch? How come? Kev, did you like the revamp Pro Bowl skills contest? It was about time they made it fun. I honestly didn't watch any of it. I think I'm too old and washed for it now. It didn't pique my interest. Didn't do it for me. Daniel says, which rookie from last year's draft will have the best second year? I'm going to say Garrett Wilson. There's a lot of guys you could go. Garrett Wilson or Sauce. Obviously, I think you make a really strong case for both. I'm going to say Garrett Wilson. Jack talks Jets. Matt, before the 2021 draft, what would your quarterback rankings be from worst to best from Trevor Lawrence, Zach, Justin, Mac, Trey, and Davis? My pre-2021 draft take was Lawrence 1, and it was like a 2A and 2B with Zach and Justin, but I leaned Zach over Justin. I had Trey Lance 4, Mac after that 5, and then Davis following that. So T-Law, Zach, Justin, Trey, Mac, Davis. What do you think JD is most willing to give up in draft capital for Rodgers? As we know, he's a draft magician. This is true. I don't think he wants to give up 13 this year. That's why I think he would do a conditional first rounder for next year, but I think he wants his first round pick this year. So I'll say second round pick, first rounder this year, or in 24, excuse me, and maybe a player. Finger Lake says my 7-year-old liked it today. See, I feel like it's more for younger kids. Like if he liked it, great. Then then it did its job. It's supposed to get the younger fans involved. It's not something that I really care about, to be honest with you. I would prefer if they like named the Pro Bowl team, like you had the honor of you played well enough to be a Pro Bowler this year, but don't actually play the game. Whether it's like the 3 best quarterbacks from the AFC and NFC, the best whatever demarcation you want to use. I have no interest in it, but that means it did its job. Not yet. Mr. Rex says, did they release who won Rookie of the Year, offensive and defensive yet? Not yet. That will be coming out soon, and hopefully it is both Sauce and Garrett Wilson. My fear is that Kenneth Walker beats Garrett Wilson, but I think Sauce is a lock for defensive. Joe S says, I think Garrett Wilson with Rodgers next year would be top 5 receiver in football. That's the same kind of trajectory I see for him as well. Yeah, it was Siaki Ika, New York Jets super fan. Take the Baylor DT and call it a day. What a beast. He is an absolute monster of a player. Lee 86 says, GB fan here. I'm taking anything in return for Rodgers. So would you do my proposal then, Lee 86? Second rounder this year, and a conditional first next year if Aaron Rodgers is on the Jets roster at the start of the new league year. That would be my proposal. You are way behind in comments. I understand that, Bob. How that works is, one, there's a delay. There's like a 20 to 30-second delay from on YouTube from what I say to it actually going live. And then StreamYard's even a little bit behind that. And I'm also talking about each comment too. So that it definitely does play a factor in this. I apologize. I'm doing my best to catch up. I'm at 8:07, so I'm only really a minute or two behind. It really can't be that bad. There's 260 people in here, Bob. There's a lot of people talking. Jack talks Jets. I'm scared because Rodgers has noticed that Devontae misses you comments. Eh. I don't know. I don't trust the Raiders. I don't think they're a well-run enough organization to pull something off like this. Maybe they do. Maybe they prove me wrong. But I think Jimmy G is where they're going to go. You have that reconnection with Josh McDaniels. McDaniels likes his guys for better or for worse, and that is a McDaniels guy. Brian says, I think the Jets will hire someone from the Philly staff after the Super Bowl as a pass coordinator. That is not a bad take at all, Brian. I think that is actually something that is pretty realistic to happen. That's a staff that I think you're going to get some guys poached from. And with Joe Douglas having the connection to Philly, it makes a ton of sense. Cream says we need a 50-50 ball receiver. That's 100% a fact. Enter 6'5" Alan Lazard in the red zone. That would be my answer to that. Good. Lee 86 says absolutely taking that. Perfect. Bob says NFL honors Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's when we're finding out? Okay, good to know. We'll write that one down. Orlando Brown sucks. What? I don't think Orlando Brown sucks, but I don't think that's the direction that the Jets are going to go for the position. New York market is horrible. You could also make a lot of money with endorsements and stuff like that here too. Joe Blewett gets 1 to 2 hours behind comments. Matt is doing super well. Love Joe Blewett. He is significantly smarter when it comes to the analysis of like breaking down what he sees on the field and like putting into words what the guys are doing well or what they're doing wrong. I don't think there's anyone better at that. I really appreciate his film breakdown. Blewett's a great guy. Where does Joe Flacco end up? On the beach on the Jersey Shore. That's where he ends up. We're doing the cross sport comparisons. Messier had Keenan and Rodgers will have Salah. Bad. Wasn't he only the coach for that 1 year in 94? And that was it? Forgive me. One, I'm not a Rangers fan. And two, that was also before I was born. But I believe he was only there for that 1 year. And the jury's still out on Salah. Does Salah not get any credit for turning the defense around? Matt, explain if we get Carr or Rodgers, how we can afford anyone else in free agency. We need money for the draft picks and to re-sign money of our own. I see maybe only one signing this year. Well, Aaron Rodgers' cap hit would be $15 million in 2023 if acquired via trade. That is not nearly that. That is not that costly. I think that's the 19th highest cap hit for a quarterback. Carr's would be 32, which obviously is a little bit tougher. But you can cut guys and restructure guys to create cap room. I have videos on it. The mock off season one. Ryan has mock off season. Buffalo Jet fan has a mock off season with money and showing how it works. Green Bean as well. There's a ton. You can make it work. QW, pay the man. He's priority. Yeah, I think Quinnen's got to get paid. He's deserving of it. I think he will. I think they get it done. Sneakers to boots says Dwayne Brown needs to retire to help this team for the cap. I think he will. Or if you designate him a post June first cut, even if he's not retiring, if you designate him a post June first cut, you save $10 million. Cream says Brees is not going to be 100%. We'll need to address that. Yeah, Michael Carter and Bam Knight can hold down the fort for a month. Brian, thank you. I appreciate this. He says you're running a good show. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm going through. We're just talking and we're chit chatting. That's all. Keep it light. I'll be on. We're an hour 13. I'll hang for another 10 minutes or so. Then I got to record something else at 9, and I like to maybe eat before doing that too. So Raiders have advantage in Devontae being on the West Coast. Counterpoint. They have Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert in the same division. And Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. Maybe he gets revived there. And the Raiders defense stinks. The Jets have a great defense. Young playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. They have to deal with Josh Allen, sure. But a path to an AFC East title seems easier than a path to an AFC West title right now. Ooh. Who draft Anthony Richards behind Rodgers? If not, can you tell me why Strevler wasn't used more? I don't want to draft someone at the because you're gonna have to take Richardson in the first round, and I think you need an offensive tackle really badly or an offensive lineman really badly. So I would advise against that. He needs to go to a place like honestly, like what Kansas City had with Mahomes, because they had a capable starting quarterback in Alex Smith, who started pretty much the entire 2018 season, and then they decided to move on. So Richardson would have to go to like, I don't know, if he went to like Detroit and sat behind Goff for a year or two, maybe that could work. Maybe sat behind Geno for a year or two, but then again, I don't know why you'd pay Geno all that money, but I don't think the Jets could afford to do something like that. I think the Jets, if you're trading for Rodgers, would then have to use that first round pick to get a offensive tackle. Joe S., thank you, my friend. This is Matt doing a great job. Support the channel. Hit the like. Joe, I appreciate the super chat, my friend. Give a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share with a friend. It means a lot. Douglas, all good. Says apologies if you already spoke on this, but what do you think of the reimagined Pro Bowl format? Yeah, I really, to be honest with you, Douglas, I'm not all that interested in it, but I believe it was, oh God, who said it earlier? Was it Lakes Jet fan, Finger Lakes Jet fan, saying that his kid really liked it? That's who it's for. It's for the younger audience. It's for the youth. It's for the kids. If they like it, then it did its job. I'm not really all that interested in it. I'd prefer if they just named like, hey, these are the Pro Bowlers this year, and it's more of like just an honors thing than an actual game. But if the kids enjoyed it, then like I said, it did its job. But I'm not really into it, to be honest with you. Mr. Rex says, think there is any validity to Raiders being cash poor, and that's why they can't go after Rodgers. I mean, yeah, I think that's valid. They can't afford to get out of the McDaniels contract right now because of that. And they might be looking to tear down some other, like Darren Waller might be on the move. So who knows? Who knows what they're going to be able to do out there? They just, spent a ton of money on that stadium. It's certainly possible. Wyatt says Green Bay fan here. Lazard is not who you think he is. Sure, he is big, but does not play big. He won't really win you those 50-50 balls. He is a good blocker, though. The blocking is really important in this scheme. Good note, though, on the 50-50 balls. I'll take that into consideration. I'll take that into I might do a little bit of digging on that myself and go back and watch some tape on him. Bob says, I think the Lions are going to make the playoffs. What do you think, Matt? I think they have a really good chance to make the playoffs next year. I definitely think they do. Yeah, it was Finger Lakes Jeff, and he said, "Yeah, it was okay to watch it. My son enjoyed it. Flag football at my son enjoyed it. I could care less." Yeah, again, it doesn't really do much for me, but the youth like it. They like it. Douglas said it was a good diversion on a Sunday afternoon. Other than that, I was meh on the Pro Bowl. Okay, that's fair. Would you give up a kidney for one Super Bowl win? Yeah, absolutely. I'd let you cut it out of me, Kev. I'd let you do it. Jimmy says we have Mims to do what Lazard does. I'm not sold on giving Mims the full Corey Davis role. I think they could use him a little bit more than what they have in years gone by, but I'm not ready to have him be a starter. Can he be wide receiver 4 and get rotated in? Sure. You're starting Z wide receiver? I don't I'm going to pass. Jets Forever Son's in the building. I'm here. Hello. Do you too like Zach Wilson? Rico the Pup says, I kind of liked it. Watching Saquon Barkley get nailed in the face by a dodgeball was hilarious. Oh, God. I did not see that clip. I'm going to have to try to look for that online. That's great. Jack Talks Jets says, Jets got to get to 10 wins next year. If we don't, I don't know what to do anymore. They should. Depends on who their quarterback is, but let's play the game that if it's Rodgers or Carr, they should win 11 games next year. Gangrene Goliath says, Matt, you're definitely one of my top 3 go-to content creators. Not going to mention names or ranks, but you're definitely in my top 3. Thank you. Answers plenty of chat talk, even if they're not super chats. Jet up, Brett Gren. Appreciate that. I do. It's fun. We have a really good community of Jet fans. And there are a lot of great Jets channels. It's an awesome space. I'm happy to be a part of it. I like doing this. I'm gonna in the off season Sunday streams are gonna be more of a thing. I'm not gonna do one next week for the Super Bowl because I don't think. I mean, we all just want to watch the game, right? But hanging out on a Sunday night stream sounds like fun to me. Rob says Rodgers is like a real estate mogul at this point. In the last couple of weeks, he's building a house in Tennessee and bought one in Vegas last week. Well, yeah, get one on the island, man. Get one on the North Shore of Long Island, or there's got to be somewhere in Jersey. Nice little town in New Jersey. Sure. Chef Joel says, I'm nervous that we put all our eggs in the basket for Rodgers and we'll lose out on both Rodgers and Carr. That is a legitimate fear. That is absolutely a legitimate fear, Chef Joel. If that happens, Lord help us. Lord help us. Thank you for the Sunday content. Anytime. Oh, that means it helps that you're easy on the eyes too. Oh, shucks. Lucas K says we would have had 10 wins this year with Zach if Brees and AVT were healthy. Any quarterback like Carr Rodgers gets us playoffs and wins a game or more in the playoffs. Probably. I would say probably yes. It would help if the offensive line stayed healthy too. Joe says Mims and Zach aren't a good match. He'll be better with another quarterback. Okay. I hope he is. I like Denzel a lot coming out of the draft. And I liked what I saw from him as a rookie and even at other points in the last 2 years. I like it. Carrie says, see Rodgers going to the Jets, he would bought a house. See Rodgers going to the Jets, he would bought a house. And maybe he does eventually. Kev says, Pro Bowl contest reminded me of old ABC Superstar contest. It's on replays in the 1980s. It's on replays in the 1980s. There we go. That's before my time. I'm going to have to look that up. I don't really know much about it. And says, does Moore still want to be a Jet? I think so. I definitely think Elijah. I think they've patched that over, thankfully. This is funny. Sneakers to Boot says Jet fans are some of, if not the most educated fans in the NFL. And we constantly stink. Maybe they should listen to us. Oh God. Phenom says Matt is solid. Best content was Ryan Greenberg and Matt in last year's NFL draft. Yeah, we're doing it again. So if you guys don't know, you should. But during the NFL draft, we live stream all 3 days, myself, Ryan, and Greenbean on Jets Talk 24/7. It is 3 marathon days. It is the 3 longest days of the year. They're like 6-7 hour streams sometimes, but that is the most fun. And I'm exhausted at the end of the weekend, but it's an absolute blast. I cannot wait for it. It is always one of my favorite weekends of the year. Thank you, Phenom. Means a lot. I'll do 2 more and then hop out of here. Let's do. I want to do a couple good ones. Okay. We'll go to Kareem. Rodgers to the Jets is the equivalent of Favre. Will be exciting, but won't make the Super Bowl. Kareem. I don't know if Kareem remembers. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. Before Brett Favre got hurt, the Jets were 8-3 and were the number 1 seed in the AFC. Then he tore his bicep. That was a problem. That was definitely a problem. He tried to play through it. They went 1-4 down the stretch and missed the playoffs. If Favre stayed healthy, who knows how that works out? Who knows how that story ends? But I don't know how you could definitively say that. We have a super chat from Daniel Murphy. There we go. Not letting you out that easy, Matt. Rucker projections, snap, and stats. Hope he's impactful. Man, that's a tough one to do at this point right now. Okay. I'm gonna compare him to another tight end who was brought on slowly early on in his career. Dawson Knox had in his second year 288 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then, the last 2 years is really when he came alive. And Dalton Schultz, another guy who came on a little bit slow in his second year, he barely played. He had 1 catch for 6 yards. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but maybe around 250 receiving yards, a touchdown. I really liked him as a blocker in that final game, Daniel. I really did. The problem is the 2 guys in front of him. You can't get out of either the Tyler Conklin or CJ Uzomah contract this year. So both guys are going to be on the roster. Hopefully Nathaniel Hackett utilizes all 3 of those tight ends. I really hope he does. I think I'm not out on Ruckert. I know he didn't really do that much this year. I'm not projecting him to do a lot next year, but the guy can play. We saw it at Ohio State. And we saw it this year in the NFL. He's a great blocker. I think he's an underutilized pass catcher. So I appreciate the super chat, Daniel Murphy. I hope they use him a lot more. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me for the last almost hour and a half. It was a good time hanging out with you. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary. Please subscribe if you're new. I'll talk to you next time.